Well, hello, third grade. We're back this time for math. It looks like we're to the end of chapter 4 already. So we're going to do a review and then hopefully after our review and some practice, you'll be ready for our test tomorrow. So let's get started here. So what we want to review and what we have learned so far in this chapter is to read and interpret a chart, to read and interpret a bar graph and a picture graph, to read and interpret a line plot, how to complete a table and locate coordinate points and write ordered pairs to identify points on a coordinate graph, and then to apply the biblical worldview truth that math is limited. And we did talk about that at the beginning of the chapter. Math does not have all the answers, and only God has all the answers. So, math does not have all the answers. That's what we've been talking about through this chapter. And again, we go back to only God has all the answers. All right, so here is a chart that we looked at the beginning of our chapter. This chart here basically gives us information. So we should be able to read this chart. We should be able to tell what the title is, what time the visiting hours are for the center. And here it tells us what times the different tours start. So basically this is an informational chart, and we will see these at places like museums, amusement parks, um, maybe even downtown places that you visit. So this is what we call basically an informational chart. So let's look at this chart. This is what we call a picture chart. And remember the one thing we always talked about, always look at the key first. So we need to look at the key to determine here how many people each ball represents. And if you look at our key, it tells us that every time we see one ball, we are going to count it as 2. So on this chart, we're going to be counting by 2s. And our question is, how many people chose football? So here is football. Let's count. 2, 4, 6, 8. So then our answer would be 8 people chose football. Let's look at soccer. Soccer we have, count with me, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12. So we have 12 people who chose soccer. So the key thing about these type of picture charts is look at the key so you will know what each picture or ball or whatever it is that they're showing you represents. Okay, this is our tally chart, and we did this together in our packets. We did birthdays. So this is our tally chart, and remember we just put 1 mark for each item that we're counting. This represents 5, and if you can remember, why do we do it this way? That's right, to help us count faster if we have 5s. So this here is the line plot, and we did this also for birthdays, and basically to transfer this information from the tally chart to the line plot, we would just simply put our title down here, books read during September, and this represents the number of books. So above number 1, we would just put an X, 1X. Above number 2, 3 X's. Above number 3, we would put 6 X's to represent 6 books. 4, there would be 7 X's. 5, there would be 3 X's, and then 2 X's. You can also refer back to your packet for the birthday tally chart and line chart that we did in class. And here is our example. As you can see, the tallies match the X's on the line plot. Okay, so this is what we call a bar graph. A bar graph basically have bars in them. And what's nice about a bar graph is you can use different colors. You can shade them in and just make it look nice and pretty if you like that. So our question is, how many purple blocks was each student given? So if I look here at my purple block, and each block is worth 2. So again, I'm counting by 2's. So each purple block then, I would count 2, 4, 6, 8. And it looks like the answer would be 8 blocks. So each student was given 8 blocks. How many blue blocks were each student given? You look here, they were given 12 blocks. Triangles, they were given 8. So again, it's just a matter of reading and following what the numbers are giving you and basically what the blocks or the patterns that they're giving you. All right, now this is a circle graph. And this is about the Smith family vacation. So each red pie is going to represent the travel. Yellow is going to represent the beach. Blue is going to represent the museum. Okay, so let's look here at how did they spend their vacation. They were gone for 7 days. And let's see. Well, it looks like one day they traveled. One day they were at the beach. Another day at the beach. So they spent 3 out of the 7 days at the beach. Oh, 4 out of 7 days. And then it looks like they went to the museum and again another travel day. So we have how many pieces to our pie here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So we would say that we have 7 pieces to our pie, and 2 of those pieces, or 2 of those days, I guess I should say, were spent traveling. So 2 out of the 7 days were traveling. Now look at the beach. Can you give me a fraction that would represent the days they spent at the beach? We know our bottom number is going to be 7. What would our top number be? Good, 4/7. They spent 4 out of the 7 days at the beach. And then 1/7, one of the 7 days they spent at the museum. So these are sometimes called pie charts, or we could call them circle charts, but these are just good for seeing a picture of how things have been divided up, and are really good for you to use if you're trying to figure out, well, how much time do I spend doing this? A lot of people will use a pie chart for their finances. You know, they'll show, well, this much money goes out for travel, this much money goes into the housing, this much money is spent on food, this much money is spent on clothing. And so it gives them a good picture of how their money is being spent. So this is what we call a pie chart or a circle chart. Again, you can refer back to your packet. We did spend one day going over this. So now let's just do a word problem. It says Mrs. Taylor's 3rd grade class took a field trip to Mammoth Cave. Each student needed to bring his own bottled water for the trip. On the morning of the trip, Mrs. Taylor recorded the number of bottles of water that each student brought. So, what did she do? One person brought, or I'm sorry, 3 people only brought 1 bottle. 8 people brought 2 bottles. 5 people brought 3 bottles. 3 people brought 4 bottles. Now, from this picture chart or from this tally chart, do we know which students brought that water? No, because we don't have names listed here. We just have totals listed. Okay, here's another little chart that we're going to look at. Yeah, what's the first thing we're going to look at this chart? We are going to look at the key, because each of these people represent 2 students. And when you see a half a person like this one here, that would mean just 1 student. So apples, we have a total of 2, 4, 6, 7 students had apples. And then if we look down to oranges, we have 2, 4, 5 people had an apple. And then a pear, we have 2, 4, 6, 8, 10 students had a pear. So it says every Wednesday, Mr. Williams brings a variety of fruit to school for a different grade level. This Wednesday, the 3rd grade classes enjoyed eating the fruit for their morning snack. So this again represents how many students had a banana, how many had grapes, and each of these figures represents 2 students. Again, we are counting by 2s. Okay, this is probably the one that I like the most, a coordinate graph. I think these are pretty cool graphs that people make. And of course, we talked about how usually the military uses coordinate graphs, airplane pilots uses coordinate graphs as they fly. One thing we always need to remember is what? Across and then up. When we read a coordinate graph, we read across, so X, Y. X goes across, Y goes up. So what we're going to do is 6, 2. We are going to put a circle where 6, 2 is. So 6 is my first number, so I go across to 6, and then I go up to 2, and that's where I put my circle. Okay, let's look at the rectangle. The rectangle goes across to 4, up to 3. Now remember, when you're writing a coordinate graph, because on the test you'll have to write a coordinate graph, you need to have the parentheses, you need to have a number, a comma, another number, and then the other parentheses. That's the correct way of writing a coordinate graph. Then we go to our triangle, so we go across to 9, up to 4. And now we have a square across to 1, up to 7. Again, if you notice, I'm going across and then I'm going up and placing my shapes. And then the oval across to 7, up to 8. Okay, so if you remember that key thing, across and then up, X, Y. Do X first and then do Y. Okay, so writing an ordered pair, we put the parentheses, the number, a comma, the number, and a parentheses. This is called an ordered pair. We read them across and then up. Here's the ordered pair 7, 2. And here's how you would write an ordered pair 2, 3. So look at this coordinate graph here. Is the animal at 1, 5 the same animal that is at 5, 1? So let's look at these. 1, 5 is a crawfish. 5, 1 is a fish. So the answer to our question is no, they're not the same animal. They're two totally different animals because they have two different ordered pairs. Okay, so that was a review of the different graphs that we've done. Now what we're going to do is go to your math packet and we're going to do the review. Once you finish the review, you can go to the next slide and score your review. And then you should have a good grasp on the different charts that we've studied. And so we'll take our test on Tuesday. If you have any questions, I'll be in Google Meet from 1 to 1:30, and I'll be glad to help you then. Have a great day.